What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? UFC 311 is upon us. This is a stacked UFC card, in my opinion. For today's video, we're going to take a look at Bernardo Sopai and Ricky Turcios to try and give you guys the best bet and a breakdown of both fighters' skill sets. So without further ado, let's get straight into the video. When it comes to Bernardo Sopai, everything is really based around his explosiveness as an athlete. In interviews with the UFC prior to entering the organization, he mentioned that he played football prior to mixed martial arts, and if training at an extremely competitive Allstars gym wasn't enough, he also said in the same interview that he trains 3 times a day, and a traditional day doesn't see him outside of gym and then home. At 5'6" with a 66-inch reach, most of his regional TKOs are all explosive knockouts. He has ones under a minute, and I wouldn't even call him entirely just a striker. He uses his explosiveness to land takedowns. We saw it in his UFC debut against Oliveira, where he was shooting takedowns. He can hold his opponents down, but being a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, he isn't really the submission threat that with his takedowns he could really be extremely dangerous because of. But he can land a takedown, he can accumulate some ground control time, which does go a long way in earning decisions. He does have 2 submissions, but you're looking at over 7 years ago for both of them, and then the other submission on his record of his 10 finishes was a submission due to punches, so not really a jiu-jitsu style submission that we're really seeing a threat of a finish from the grappling. But still, as a massive favorite in this fight, I think it's really justified because of his explosiveness in the first 2 rounds with the ability to take down opponents. I think that he is an extremely dangerous prospect fighting outside of the top 15, but we saw in the Vinicius Oliveira fight that his biggest issue was honestly the lack of height and reach. He was struggling with the long combinations of Oliveira, but that's a situation that we're not going to see in this fight, as both fighters have identical height and reach coming into this contest. And by the end of the second round, going into the third round, I don't know if it was tired, cardio issues, or what, but Vinicius was landing at a much better clip in the back half of the fight than he was in the first half. And when it comes to these explosive athletes, you do see that trend more often where he looks like a completely different fighter in the back half of the fight. And then there's Ricky Turcios, who is extremely creative. The guy's a fan favorite when it comes to mixed martial arts. From his time in The Ultimate Fighter to his in-cage performances, he has a style that really anyone could love. He is extremely, again, creative when it comes to his grappling, constantly scrambling to different positions. He's welcome to shooting takedowns, and he's welcome, honestly, to his opponents shooting takedowns where he'll scramble for legs, he'll scramble for arms, he'll look for the back and dominant positions, and he threatens from any position, on his back, on top, in scrambles. It is extremely fun to watch his fights. Striking-wise, not the most effective striker, not the most powerful striker, but he does have a chin. He has been cracked, recovered due to his scrambling ability. When you're watching his fights, his style gives me a lot of the vibes, kind of like Tony Ferguson in a sense, in my opinion. Unorthodox in his striking. He does have long combinations when it comes to his boxing, but you don't see much in terms of explosive knockouts. However, he will, in the later rounds of fights, start to put it on his opponents, even if he's been rocked and dropped multiple times. Even in fights where there are tons of scrambles, Ricky is always in good cardiovascular shape and can go, unless really put out, knocked out completely, or submitted by an extremely skilled grappler. Overall, when it comes to the fight, grappling, I don't like it for Sopai whatsoever. I think that Bernardo would land takedowns and in high numbers if he wanted to, but I believe that Ricky's scrambling and creativeness will make it incredibly dangerous for either Sopai to get submitted or him concede a bad scramble and losing a dominant position. And in the case where there is a lot of these grappling situations, a lot of scrambles, then I think that it's going to wear on the gas tank of Sopai more than it would Ricky Turcios. On the feet, I think Sopai is way more explosive, technical, will land more when both fighters are fresh. But again, as I mentioned, as the fight goes on, Ricky starts to put on forward pressure. When he senses a weakness from his opponent, he'll put the forward pressure on, and we've seen Sopaj late in fights get a little bit tired. Now, he could crack in those early rounds. Regionally, he was finishing guys real early in fights. First round, second round TKOs. We've seen explosive power from his overhands, from his hooks, his combinations in the boxing. But if Sopaj comes in not in peak physical condition, and he is a great athlete, so I don't doubt that he's training hard, then there could potentially be a lot of scrambles and takedowns in this fight that are going to drain the energy and the gas tanks of both fighters. And I think Ricky has proven a little bit more to be ready for those circumstances. I think the right fighter here is favored. That in the first 2 rounds, I think only bad decision making when it comes to Bernardo Sopai would lead to his downfall, but minus 355 is extremely wide as a favorite. We've seen the number come down a little bit, and I think that that is justified. Once actual gamblers saw this line, I would assume they saw the same things that I kind of saw, that Ricky can kind of take over in that 3rd round and money has kind of come in on his side. I also lean the value plays. Ricky 3rd round at 25-1, or if you're taking a look at the point spread, plus 3.5 if he's able to steal the last round on a judge's scorecards or have a close first or second round. There's a lot of scrambles in the first and second round. I think Ricky could possibly take one of those, and at plus 3.5 at minus 120, I think there is value there. But that is my breakdown for Bernardo Sopai versus Ricky Turcios on the prelims of UFC 311. We have a stack card. I'm going to try and do as many breakdowns as I possibly can. If you enjoyed, smash the like button, subscribe to Combat Sports Central, and I will see you in the next one.